Sales feeds your income, which pays your bills and fuels your dreams. That makes sales really, really important. And if you agree with that, why on earth wouldn't you build a plan that drives your sales instead of just taking what comes? Well, my guest today helps her clients build plans that lead to the business outcomes they want, and she's going to answer these questions for us. I'm Carl White, principal at Market Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of Practice Care. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. It's usually what they want anyway, but care is better when the providers of care, whether it's one or many, own the practice instead of somebody else, because then all the clinical decisions, all the business decisions, they're made by the same group of people. And that way we can make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that the patient always comes first. I think it's just better that way. My guest today is Michelle O'Connor. Michelle is a believer in following one's dreams, and she has risen from an inner city community to a life of abundance. With corporate expertise in strategic planning and execution, she helps entrepreneurs achieve their goals. Michelle supports organizations through strategic processes, coaching entrepreneurs to develop action plans for success. She has facilitated strategic planning retreats in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Dominican Republic, and reached hundreds through her purpose-driven conference. Her current mission is to help medical private practice owners create sustainable practices. And as a wife and mother, she strives for a brighter future, motivated by the philosophy Ad Astra Per Aspera. Michelle, a returning guest, thank you for coming
Yes.
back.
Thank you so much, Carl. Always
Yes,
a pleasure having conversations with you and, sharing with your audience as
yes.
well.
And anybody who's listened knows that we are both corporate refugees, as we like to say. Did time in corporate, learn a lot, but here
Yeah.
we are now, smiling greater.
Yeah.
So before we get into our topic of planning your sales versus taking what comes, tell us a bit more about you.
So I'm Michelle O'Connor, as Carl would have shared. I'm a corporate refugee.
Yeah.
I was in corporate 17 years
Yeah.
and in strategic planning for about 10. And
Hmm.
it was in that time of working in strategic planning and seeing what a large organization was doing and watching my friends or people I know who were smaller entrepreneurs. And I'm like, something is off. How can I share all that I've learned in the boardroom, facilitating and sharing with those who have an idea, have a dream, they're just moving along with their talent, but they don't have the business side of things to, make
Hmm.
their business operate better. So they can show up better whether they want to make more money, find more time for themselves or their families. Throughout that journey, I started getting clients who were doctors. And one common theme resonated through all our conversation was that we'd never learned business in medical school. We didn't
Hmm.
learn this in medical school. And it was causing a lot of burnout for them as well. And they were also replicating what they were seeing from other doctors who have gone before, which is just burnout.
Sometimes good, sometimes not, depending on who
Right,
you're
working
following.
at a
Yeah.
hospital, doing their private practice, teaching, just doing what they needed to do to make some money. And throughout that journey, helping persons, I realized that, what I see as something that may be simple and a day-to-day is not that for everybody else. And I'm just on a mission to support persons with planning their business better so they can show up for themselves. Whatever that better looks like,
Yeah.
that's what I do for persons.
Yeah, I love planning. And once you have a good plan, everything that you do, like all the thinking is done, all the thinking,
Oh,
and then you just got to get it done, but you're
yeah,
not. And what do you do with the plan? Every periodically you take a look at it. Do we need to update it? Do we need to change
yeah,
it? But you're not just things actually go. It's like go slow to go fast. Take your time,
yes,
build a good plan because certain things happen in certain sequences and certain things are going to happen depending on the choices that you make. And I just feel like that's not properly done enough.
yeah.
So we're going to try to break this down.
Yeah, and that's so true, Carl, because what I find a lot of time, persons, as you say, go slow so you can go fast. Planning
Mhm.
is going slow.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not on social media, you're like down in the gutter.
Hmm.
It's like building the foundation. You see
Yep.
a building going up, they spent maybe a year building the foundation, and that's what your plan is.
Yeah.
That way you can do everything much, much faster.
And I remember like when I would do planning also in large corporate, but also for Market Advisory Group, you kind of you go back and forth. So you start at the beginning of the plan and you make some big choices and then you sort
Mhm.
of follow them through. And then downstream, you look at something and go, oh crap, I don't want that. And
Yeah,
you got to go back and fix fine.
Yes.
fine. But once it kind of flows nicely the way you want, it makes sense, forward and backward, you have something really
Yeah.
good. So,
Yeah.
all right, so let's get into it and start with something I hear said sometimes, but I think it's really important. There's hope and there's strategy, and they're
Mhm.
confused. What's the difference to you?
So to me, hope is a wish.
Hmm.
You know, I'm just sitting here just thinking this thing might happen.
Hmm.
And you go along with that.
Hmm.
Having a strategy is taking that wish or that hope and questioning it, asking yourself, what will it take for this to happen? Or
Hmm.
what do I need to do to make this happen?
Hmm.
And there are many different layers. You will ask yourself, does it fit into the goals that we have? You know, if we're
Hmm.
talking about an organization, does it fit into the goals that we have? How does this impact our people? What are the economic factors that are going to affect it? What
Hmm.
are my competitors doing? So you take that thought that you have and you sit and you dissect it, you develop an action plan around it so you can see it realize. What
Hmm.
happens for so many persons is we have this hope, you know what? I want my practice to generate a certain amount of money, or I want to attract a certain type of category of client. And that's
Hmm.
it. We leave it there.
Hmm.
And we go about and we talk about it so often. But
Hmm.
when you have a strategy, you take that thought, you sit, as we just shared in our quiet moments, or
Right.
the dark side where it's not glitz and glamour. It's
Hmm.
post-its, it's flyers, it's conversations. If you have a team, it's disagreement, it's all of those things. It's, oh my God, how are we going to make it? Will it happen? And then you realize that coming out of that, you develop something that you can work with.
Right.
And just share just know that having a strategy is not a straight line.
Mm.
And I say this all the time, organizations don't work like that either. Every month we meet, we're redoing our sales targets when we were in
Hmm.
corporate.
Hmm.
Oh, we're not going to make it. Oh, can we call? You're doing the work to
Hmm.
make sure that you can get to your goal. But having that strategy, that it's something that is so direct and focused that
Yeah.
you communicate to just anybody. This idea that I had, this is how I'm going to make it a reality.
Yeah. And there it is. It's the how. For me, it's very similar to that. If you're building a practice or business or whatever, it is a plan that's going to get you from to where you want to be, to whatever that
Yeah,
goal is. You can, in a plan, you can allocate your time and money to this, but not that, because you're
yeah,
choosing to do so because you think it's going to play out. You can throw more money at it or less time or whatever. You can't do any of that with hope. I mean, hope in life is vital. Sometimes all there is hope, right? But you can't direct hope. It's either
yeah,
there or it's not. You can't put more money into hope to make hope go faster,
that's
or
true.
hope be. You can't. Like
Yeah.
that's not how hope works.
You know what just
Strategy works that
crossed
way.
my
You know.
what just crossed my mind when you said hope? I'm thinking about someone lost at sea
Mhm.
and they're just stranded and they're hoping that somebody comes and gets
Hope the
them.
current takes me the right way. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they themselves, they're not in control. And this is what your strategy does, as I say this, it
Yeah.
puts you in the driver's seat as much as possible. We know there are factors that you have no control over, but
Hmm.
even within your strategy, you're talking about those.
Hmm.
And that's what comes to mind. So if your viewers thinking, listeners thinking about it, when you're hoping, you're not in the driver's seat, you have no control. You're just sitting down and looking around and wondering and wishing. When you have a strategy, you're on that boat, you're directing, you're looking at the direction of the wind, you're steering the
Hmm.
boat in the right direction, you
Hmm.
probably have all the food on board, you have your life jacket, like the whole thing is really, really sorted out when you have a strategy.
Correct. And only a strategy can get you there. Um, you might get there anyway, but that's just luck. That's a different episode.
Yep. And
But
it may not be sustainable luck.
right, right, right. Luck is vital, hope is vital, but you can't rely on them.
Yeah.
You need to build something that you can rely on, that you can control, that you can tweak and tailor and change. Absolutely. I mean, practice owners are smart people. How come, why do you think so few of them, why do so few of them plan their sales, would you say?
I've come to realize that when it comes on to individuals, and we might be different because we've had that corporate experience and we probably had training.
Hmm.
Usually, that side of our brain that pulls us into sitting down and thinking through a process, it's not the same for everybody else.
Yeah.
And so if I am the practice owner and I am always thinking of how am I going to care for my patients? How am I going to ensure that they receive the best care possible? That's where my thought is.
Hmm.
Now, when I now need to sit and think about business and plan, what am I offering? What's my price? How does my team feel?
Hmm.
How do I ensure that they are motivated and adequately compensated? I'm looking at client experience. Those things are, along with the fact that they've not been trained,
Yeah.
that's number one. Even if they are trained, it just may not be something that they like doing. You know,
Hmm.
we can think about things. I don't believe I am the most creative because that's not who I am. I'm a process person.
Same. Yeah.
You know, I am
Yeah.
thinking about the next step. You can share with me a goal right here, and I think about all the steps to get us to this goal.
Hmm.
But the creative side may not be for me. And I think that's the same thing for persons who are in private practice. No, the challenge comes where they now need to pull back and realize that you are a CEO.
Hmm.
You are someone who owns a business, you own an asset, and we need to figure out how it is that we're going to ensure that this asset is adequately structured and generating the returns that you want so
Hmm.
you can still be viable and go home and spend time with your family, do things that you have interest with. But what I found talking to them, they don't know that, you know,
Hmm.
and they're just thinking, but I don't see anybody around me doing that. Everybody's running around and trying to, you know, make ends meet. But along with who they are as a person and how they, you know, we're all different in terms of or styles,
Hmm.
the part of them not being trained and not understanding is also a critical thing. I remember I was talking to a doctor and I was talking to her about all the things that I'm noticing. And she's like, Michelle, you get me. And I'm like, yeah, I get you because I understand the business.
Hmm.
And it's to get them now to think that it's okay if you don't understand the business, but get someone who does understand the business.
Right.
Have them
Right.
do that for you while you still show up. It's like us, if we're not creative, we're not sitting on and trying to be creative. We're hiring someone, we share with them our thoughts, our ideas, our vision. They bring it to life. We see it, we question, yes, this looks like what I really want, and then we take it from there. But I think it's not being trained, not their personality type, and not being open or knowing that this service is available
Yeah.
to.
And I wonder if part of it is also there is a lot that's out of your control.
Yeah,
That's not a safe thing to say depending on where you work, but if you own the place, you can say it. You can't control patients walking in your door versus somebody else's door. And I wonder if that, because you can't control from the very beginning to the very end, they become a patient. If people just kind of, I don't know, even subconscious, throw up their hands and say, well, whatever will be, will be.
yeah,
But my challenge to anybody who reacts to that, who agrees with that, is to say, figure out what you can control, even if you can't control all of it. You can certainly, narrow the universe of, you can make some things more likely.
yeah,
Um, and try, because you can, like you made an example. Is my staff motivated? Is my staff happy? Tell you what, a happy staff attracts more patients than an unhappy staff. Even
yeah,
though, for every 10 patients who could choose you, still all 10 will not. Probably more will. And you can control that. Even
mm,
if you can't control all of it, you can control some of it. Right. And so if you tackle the things that you can and are aware then of the things that you cannot, I I promise you, you can control more than you think. If you're like this
yeah,
planning, it just doesn't, it's not that it doesn't make any sense. Nobody would argue with it, but I don't see how it's valuable for us because I can't make them choose me. Right?
yeah.
But you can do some of the things along the way
Along the
that
way.
up the odds.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
two things came to mind when you said that. One, about not being able to control referrals, as an example.
Yeah.
I worked with a doctor on this, and one of the things for her was based on the service she offers, she needed to refer her client somewhere else.
Hmm.
And it was she was doing skincare. She's a
Hmm.
dermatologist,
Okay.
and she would refer them to go and buy products somewhere else.
Okay.
She didn't know if they would come back. So two things we spoke about. she wants to also offer products. I'm like, you can offer the products,
Hmm.
or you can have your team then call the clients a few weeks after, checking how are you doing? Were you able to get your products? Or send an email. That to her was novel. She was like, oh, I never thought of that.
Hmm.
And also when you talked about happy team members will
Hmm.
attract more clients, sometimes we don't see customer service as an integral part of what we offer when we're in medical services.
Hmm.
It's just I'm caring for you on whatever challenge you have, and that's gonna be okay. I may have shared this on your program on your podcast before, where I changed my son's pediatrician, and the pediatrician we got, I went to her because she was always on time.
Hmm.
When I get to her at 8, I'm sure she's going to be there at 8.
Hmm.
I value that.
Hmm.
So if you are a doctor, you're in private practice, find out what is it that your clients value. Do a survey, ask 5 questions, or while they're in the waiting room, the person at the front desk, they can also administer that survey. You use that information to know where you need to focus your energy. So you talk about what you're in control of. They be thinking, oh, I can't control if they're happy or not. Maybe you
You
can.
can, and that's a great point because today you're supposed to be good clinically. All
Yep,
right. That's not the differentiator it used to be for most. And what
yep,
does that leave? The rest of the patient experience, just what you were saying. They show up on time. Am I rushed? Yeah, do a simple survey of your patient based, at least the patients you would like more of, maybe not
yep.
everybody. But if
That's right.
there's
Very
10 or
good point.
15 patients who you say to yourself, man, if I had a practice full of them, I'd be a happy camper. You want to find out what they like and don't like. You make them happy, and you'll be doing something that's under control. When I present marketing plans as proposals to prospective client X every once in a while. What can you guarantee me new patients? And my answer is this plan is designed to work. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't put something in front of somebody that wasn't, but this is
Yeah.
designed to work based on everything I know, experience I have with other clients, et cetera. But no, I can't. I can't guarantee that to you. That would be irresponsible. I can't control what your competition is going to do. I can't control, just because you're going to be a lot more visible doesn't mean every patient's going to call you who could, et cetera. But nevertheless, it's gonna take away a lot of the things that should be happening but are not, and it's gonna up the odds.
Yeah. Most
And then the
definitely.
rest of it is we're month to month. So if you don't like it, you can, if it's not
Yeah.
working, then you have the easy out. But that's, I guess it's my way of saying we're taking away a bunch of the stuff that's getting in the way so that the odds go up that you'll get more.
I love that. And I love that you shared attracting more of the patients that you want.
Yes.
That's something that's very critical. It's not everybody who is walking through the door. And that's what happens when you don't have a plan. You
Hmm.
believe that everyone who comes to you, you need to say yes to them.
Yes.
It may be this. I have defined the type of the persona, the avatar, whichever words we use. I've designed the person that I really want to work with. When
Hmm.
I look in my waiting room, who are these people? When I look at my patient list at the end of the day, who were these people?
Hmm.
And how do I need what? And this is where your plan now comes in. How do I now communicate more to these people?
Hmm.
How do I reach them more so more of those persons can walk through my door? And this now takes out the hustling out of being a doctor. Like I'm not opening my door and everybody who walks in, everything is
Yeah.
happening. And slowly, it won't happen overnight. One of the things that I've noticed, even with algorithms online, the more you speak to your ideal client, the more the algorithm will send your information to them. It's the very same thing. When you
Yeah.
develop a plan, your marketing plan around your avatar, around your persona, you're speaking to them. So slowly you realize that the people who you really want start coming in,
Hmm.
and those that you may not want, they're not going to hear what you're sharing anyways because you're
Yeah.
not speaking to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had an episode a couple of years ago. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And it was exactly this. Essentially get more of the patients you want. And what did they do? They just started talking about what they want a lot
Yeah,
more often. And over time, it wasn't overnight, they notice that now a majority of their patients are the ones where they say, these are not everybody, but
yeah,
things, you're never done. Things, you want to improve things, you want to
yeah.
make things more the way you want. And then but it's rarely only that, but they're very happy with it.
Yeah,
Um,
and they will now tell other people who are like them because like-minded people, hang out
yeah,
together. They will
Yes.
tell other persons. And one thing that we don't realize that there is a direct correlation with us targeting persons who we don't want and the complaints that we get, because what you're offering is not for some people. You
Yep.
may get complaints from your desired clients as well, and you take that as feedback and how
Hmm.
you can continue to improve. But a lot of times you're attracting the people that you don't want, and
Hmm.
as such, there is a friction happening.
And that's a real killer
Yeah,
to a practice. You want to kill your practice, treat patients that just are bad fits.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a strategy.
yeah.
So what are some examples that you see of practice owners doing that they think is planning, but it's really not? Just to help people wrap.
They're hanging out with their team. They're just dinners, and they're like, yeah, we sit and we have conversation, but guess what? Nobody's documenting anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're having weekly check-in meetings with no structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I am checking in. How did things go last week? It's like things are just all over the place. There's no, okay, this was our goal for last week. Did we meet it? Did we not meet it? That's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's, just, oh, okay, you're feeling, how did that patient? Oh, we checked in with that. Those ad hoc conversations,
Mm-hmm.
because they in their mind they're doing something that's good because they need to have a meeting, but it's making sure that there's structure to everything and it comes back to your plan. If
Mm-hmm.
you know that for the entire year this is the goal that you have, you've broken it down into quarters, you've broken it down into months. No, this month this is what we're talking about. I remember working with a client once, and she offers various different services, and we're talking about what can you do this month, like what's happening in this month.
Mm-hmm.
There are the common ones depending on where you work, where it's breast cancer or prostate or heart or that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. How can you set your plan up so you are also focused there? So your conversations are very direct, because a lot of times we are just talking about everything. We were working on. I've done a lot of work. The dermatologist, she jumps out to me because she doesn't want
Sure.
to leave. And
We love those.
I have a friend of mine, my son does track and field, and one of his friends he was having some issues with his heel. We're just talking about it, and she was telling me what it is. And I'm like, where on your website do you talk about this thing? Nowhere. And in Jamaica, there's a season for track and field. It goes on for like 3 or 4 months. And I said
Mm.
to her, this is your opportunity to jump into this space and have conversations. My friend was going to doctors and her son was out for 2 weeks. She had one visit for 30 minutes with the doctor and he was fine.
Mm.
We just like for us, I'm sure there are things that we're good at that we don't see. They call it our blind spot.
Yeah.
But it's those things, having someone, ask you those questions. That is planning.
Yeah.
Let me look at the calendar of things that are happening. Let me look at my target audience, the services that I offer. How can I fill into that space? I think
Mm-hmm.
that is what's missing, and not just doing what I'm doing every day because that's what I've always been doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I see one a lot. Let's start talking about X, or
Yeah,
well, why? Like what just why that as opposed to
yeah.
anything else? What did you see? How much do you want? Yeah, like I guess you got to plan before you do. you
Most
know
definitely.
you really do. I see it in marketing. I see a lot of just like the sort of, I call it a tactical vomit. We're just doing all sorts of stuff and we're throwing all sorts of stuff out there, and there's not much rhyme or reason. Nobody's
Yeah,
tracking anything. um if you ask them why, where'd that come from, it's well, we just thought.
yeah.
That's just like a knife in the heart to people like you and me. I would say,
Yeah.
but a cool
Listen,
but
I tell you, Carl, if I'm sitting in a room where there's an unstructured meeting, my brain is going like 50 miles. And I'm like, are we for real? Am I the only one who feels that this is not making sense? Like,
yeah.
what's the purpose of this conversation? But I think what happens for doctors is it takes time to plan. There's a reason companies go on retreat. These
Hmm.
large organizations that you invest your money in, that you purchase stocks and bonds with, they take time to plan because they retreat, pull away, because it's necessary and it's very, very important. You think about going on a vacation. You know, when I was in
Mhm.
corporate and I went on a vacation, I came back, I forgot even my password. It's a relaxing time.
Yes, that's how you know you did it right. Yeah.
It gives your
And you get
brain
like five
space.
times before it locks you out. I was like, Jesus, that happened to me once. I'm like, I have two more times. I better slow down here.
Or I'm gonna call help desk,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But you need to pull away. So
Yes.
before I have a meeting loop, person like, oh, a meeting,
Hmm.
that was one of my secret powers. To this day, I think it is where if you're having a meeting, knowing who is going to be in the room is
Hmm.
important. You know, being in touch with your people is important. You already know what the person at the front desk, what their concerns are going to be. Structure it so you address it. Let's look at what our financial goal was. If you discuss that with your team, maybe it's a number of clients who walk through the door.
Hmm.
Okay, how did they rank us? What are persons saying on the ground? And then you take that information and you plan for next week. But we tend to just have these ad hoc conversations and think it's a meeting, or we meet with ourselves. You don't even meet
It
with the
was a
team.
meeting.
Yeah.
Totally unproductive. I mean, we
Or-
met.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
You
don't
meet
want
with,
people to think like, that these are the structures are crushing or just there's, I have to, you put a plan together, especially for the first time, you need creativity.
yeah,
You really do. What are the things we could do to grow and just
yeah,
let's have it,
yeah,
and let's just start throwing them out there. And you don't, say yay or nay to any of them. Say, what do you see and why do you see it? And yeah, throw it on the list. Who
yeah.
knows? Who knows if it'll make the cut eventually? And why do you have to have a cut? Why can't you do anything? Because there's only so much time and money. You just have
Capacity
to,
is limited.
you do. And the greatest thing you could have, I find, frankly, if those are constraints, right? If you
Yeah,
constrain something, so we need to accomplish X, but we only have A and B to get it done, you can actually get more creative.
yeah.
Like a constraint is a way to like sort of squeeze some creativity because
Mhm.
you can't, it's not easy and you have to get more creative. There's definitely, a good plan requires creativity, especially at the
Yeah.
start. It
And
really does.
I'm happy you said that because it's not to say any new ideas that you have, you're throwing it out the window. You need it. But
Hmm.
then if you really sat down and did your planning properly, you're able to test it within your plan.
Yeah.
Or is it still going to help us to get to that goal? Maybe it's helping us to get to that goal faster. But
Hmm.
you need persons who are questioning what you've planned along the way
Yeah.
and bring your creative juices in the room. One of the things I do, here's a parking lot. We're putting our
Hmm.
creative ideas in the parking lot, and then we're looking back. Which one of these ideas that we have on our parking lot do we think can fit into our plan? It's not that you're going to be, you know, stiff neck and this is where you're going.
Yeah.
No, but you need to test it against something so you're not always changing course because you
Yeah.
then never ever get to your destination.
That's another good point is, so you've got 10 ideas, ten ways to grow, and you can only pick three. Let's hold on to the other seven, just not now,
Yeah,
maybe later. And at
prioritize.
this, it's you're right. And but it doesn't mean you throw away the other seven. It just means, they didn't make the cut this time.
Yeah,
And in 3 months or 6 months or whenever we kind of, dust off the plan and see if we want to change anything, there's a chance to throw them in. Sometimes, an idea is so good in the middle, you say, what, we need to, I don't want to wait for that. Let's see if we can
yeah,
start doing. It's not like it's not etched in stone, never to be changed again. That's actually bad.
yeah.
There's a balance. There's got to be some flexibility because you don't have all the good ideas
That's right.
for these 3 days you carved out for planning.
Yeah,
You have the best ideas you could figure out during those 3 days. But so you've got to have just a little bit of, you don't want to kill the creativity, but it doesn't mean that anytime a new idea comes along, you blow up the whole thing and start again. No, there's a
yeah,
balance, and whatever, different practice owners will have a different kind of balance there. But again, it's not so rigid and etched in stone.
yeah. And
But
at least you would have dumped your ideas on paper and you have something to test your new idea against.
yeah,
That's what it is. It's not, oh, we're not doing it, but does it
yeah.
fit?
And
Does
then
it?
test, yeah, because, to me, as long as an idea that you're testing is not going to sort of blow up the practice if it went if
Yeah,
it went badly, to me, the greatest crime of an idea is not that it didn't work, but that you didn't learn why. To me, that's the greatest crime. I mean, we all go on, Dr. X, if you are listening, in the past 2 years or in the next 2 years, you're going to spend a few $1,000s to go to some seminar to learn something. No problem, right? View this similarly. Like you're not
Yeah.
taking flyers on things, but you pick something because you think, we think that could work. But at the very least, if it does, why? If it didn't, why? And not to say never to do it again, but if it comes up again, you can, we tried this last time. We should do it differently this time.
Yeah.
What was going on? Not to never be tried again, but to me personally, that's the greatest crime is
Yeah.
if, you spent time and money on something and it didn't work and you all look at each other and go, we have no idea why that didn't work.
Yeah.
To me, that's the greatest crime of
And then you
all.
may end up
What a waste.
repeating that thing, or seeing that none of us know why. It's almost similar to joining an organization and you see persons doing things a certain way and nobody asks why, nobody knows why,
Mm-hmm.
and you continue doing it only to realize, oh, we're going in the wrong direction. But getting the lessons learned from
Mm-hmm.
goals that you decide to continue or stop doing,
Mm-hmm.
it's golden. Like that's information that can
Yeah.
help as your team grows. And I often remind persons that your strategy is your communication tool as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whether if they're hiring you to do marketing, Carl, here's our strategy. You can
Mm-hmm.
take that and gain ideas.
Right.
But if they don't, you have to start from scratch. If you're hiring
Right.
a new person, you're able to communicate to them where your practice is going. If you're starting a partnership, it's a very good communication tool as well.
Yeah. And you hit it before when you said, well, we can't do that again. We tried that and it didn't work. So never again. That's the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also the wrong answer. But if you don't know why it did or didn't work, then you're kind of stuck. Um, we have covered a lot of ground here today. Anything you think we should have hit?
Usual.
I know, as usual. Anything you think we should have hit on that we didn't get to?
Well, just for persons to I want to remind listeners that it's okay if you don't know how to do it, or it's
Mm-hmm.
okay if you've been doing it a certain way the time that you've had your practice, because it's natural for us. We all go through ebbs and flows, different things that are happening. I've been listening to a podcast. I was listening to a podcast since Friday. It's like 3 hours long. And it's really a group of persons who've created different AI applications, just talking about how it can help our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is that you are sitting down and you're taking care of your patients, chances are you're not plugged into the quick changes that are happening. So get somebody to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sit and try to do it all by yourself. I tell
Mm-hmm.
persons, the greatest of persons. I never understood it until I became an entrepreneur. And I'll use this example. I saw this media personality back home, and she had somebody walking behind her, ironing her, using the steamer on her outfit, fixing her hair, fixing her makeup. She was just focused on doing her interviews and hosting this show the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's the very same thing for you as a doctor. When it is that you've set up yourself so that you can show up as your best self, you are making sure that you're not just exhausted. Because I know for a lot of persons, probably making the money that you want to make, but are you there for your friends? Are you there for your kids? Are you there for your family? Are you there for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I am yet to go to any of my doctors in all my life, and they've had lunch.
Yeah.
Like they don't eat, or I have to go here, I can't find time. So it's really about just making sure that you create a plan that supports your life and your vision, where you want to go and how it is that you want to serve patients.
Yeah. And as you start going, I'll add this, as you start going down the planning path, just don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, right? The
Yeah.
first time you do a plan, so your second plan, it's gonna be better than your first. It's a learned thing,
Yeah.
just like anything else. And so just give yourself a break.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of good resources out there, Michelle being one of them, who could say, this is what good looks like. And this is what
Yeah.
good looks like for a first timer. You
Yeah.
don't have to be like McKinsey consulting level planning. It's gonna be, there's overkill. So you just have to
You
be
want things that are simple and that you can get
correct.
done. And half
Correct.
the time, guys, don't feel bad if the plans that you have, you don't realize those goals in the first year. A lot of organizations, and I've said this maybe on here again
Mhm.
over and over, that the only reason you don't know that their goals are not achieved is because it's not public. They
Mhm.
don't make it public until at the end.
Mhm.
We change targets, we change our goals, we don't meet something, we're like, okay, what do we need to do? We launch a product, the product wasn't a success, we pull it from the market. Nobody knows. I
Hmm.
often say to persons, nobody is sitting down except the auditor that you pay and auditing every single thing that you're doing.
Hmm.
It's like posting on social media. I was saying this to somebody the other day, that it's okay for you to post a text and a video. I don't know if the person who, we can't remember what we ate last week, Monday for dinner.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
going to remember that you posted this. So, it's
Yeah.
not perfection. You're just getting the thoughts that you have in your head on paper. We're putting it in a very structured way that it lines up to where you're going. You're
Yeah.
going on a journey, you're going on a trip. You need to make a stop at the gas station. You need to get food. You need to take this route. You need to go through the toll.
Hmm.
That's all we're doing. If there's an accident on the toll, you make a detour. That's what we're doing. So it's
Yeah.
not perfection. We're just getting it done, and it's okay. We operate in the mess, and you
Yeah.
have someone who is able to help you to figure it out as you go along.
Yeah. The point is to get good, then better, not
Yeah.
perfect best. It's just, yeah, unattainable. Thank you, Michelle. Once again, thanks for coming on Practice Care. I love these talks.
Welcome.
Two planners talking. Only good
Yes.
things can happen, right? Only
Like a
good things
coffee
can
chat.
happen. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Cool. And you supplied your contact information, which we have. So we're going to put them in the show notes. Anyone who wants to get a hold of you now has this way to do it also. Couple of points before wrapping up. First, please subscribe to Practice Care if you haven't done it already. Practice Care is one word. It's super easy to find. We're everywhere, and we drop a new episode every week, and that's the easiest way to stay up to date. And finally, if you're like Michelle or us and you serve private practice owners, or you're a private practice owner yourself, either way, you've got some expertise and experience on the business side of private practice. We want you to come on Practice Care and tell the world about it in the episode notes for the show notes for Michelle's episode. And each episode, there's a link, a couple of clicks, super easy and quick. Tell us what's on your mind, and we'll get you scheduled as soon as we can. Thanks very much. And until next time.